Hello, Steve Arts 89. Well, I was wondering if this would happen because I knew with the Ryan Murphy Monsters Menendez show coming out that would put a spotlight on the boys and on the case again. And there's been a push for years for them to get a retrial or something because they didn't get a fair trial. They were tried twice. The first time they were tried separately, and they were mistrials because basically all the women sided with Eric and Lyle because they understand abuse. Sadly, women understand this, but men couldn't process the idea of men as victims, and all the men were against them and the women were for them. So they got hung juries or whatever it was, both of the cases from separately. And then the real injustice was they were tried again as a couple, but the judge didn't allow them to basically enter their defence. They weren't allowed to talk about their family or their fathers, and none of their relatives were allowed to basically give any evidence. So they basically said, okay, we're going to retry you, and you're not actually allowed to use your defence. So naturally, they were convicted and, went to jail for the rest of their lives with no chance of parole. But fortunately, over the last, 30 years that these victims have been in jail, awareness for sexual abuse against men and children has just improved, that we understand these circumstances and how much they affect people. And there's been a push for years to give them a new trial, and now they are actually getting a hearing. And that hearing could lead to a trial, or it could lead to a resentencing. So the chance that they could get out of jail is possible. The chance that they could get another trial and be found innocent, as they should be, because these boys were abused physically and sexually by both of their parents, allegedly, since they were like 5, 6 years old. And you cannot be a normal, adjusted, healthy person, and you cannot be expected to have a normal reaction to that situation. The fact that they killed their parents is understandable, because they thought they weren't in a normal reality. They thought that their parents were going to kill them. They thought if they told anyone what happened to them, that their parents were going to kill them. And part of the reason why this is being looked at again is because the evidence that we all know about is finally being considered. The evidence that other people have come forward to say that the father also molested other people. One of the band members from Menudo, he was apparently allegedly raped by the father, who he just has this history of being an abusive person, and that was entered into the first individual trials, but they weren't allowed to enter that into the trial, the second trial. So, and also the evidence that Lyle wrote to one of his cousins talking about the abuse months before the murders. So it proves that they didn't make it up afterwards. It was something that was known, and the family all came out and said, and I think there's 24 members or something was the number I heard, members of their family have basically vouched for them. So I really hope they get another trial, they get a fair trial, and they're set free after 30 years. I mean, they've basically lost their lives. They're 50 now or something. One of them was 18, one of them was 21 when they were tried in, I think, 1991, I think it was, because the letter was in 88, the murders were in 89, and they were tried in the early 90s, and they've been in jail pretty much for like 30 years. So at 90s and 99, yeah, like 30 years. So yeah, I'm proud that Kim Kardashian and Rosie O'Donnell have sort of helped, and that finally they're getting a second chance, a fair trial, the possibility of a fair trial, being heard fairly, because no one wanted to hear about boys being molested or abused, and no one wanted to consider that reality, and they just were vilified as, these homosexual murderers, these incestuous homosexual murderers was what people believed they were, because they had to victimize. They were the victims, but had to make them guilty and make them bad and them evil and them dirty or perverse or something, because they just couldn't handle the idea of a father doing that to their sons. But that's the reality that a lot of men live with, and we now understand this, and we're actually better with dealing with this now, and hopefully these guys now will get a fair trial, and that basically means they should be out of jail. They should not be in jail for life. So yeah, I'm just glad to hear about this, and I just had to talk about it because I was hoping something would come out of this, but I wasn't expecting something this good. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of the whole Menendez thing.